Hello, and welcome to the Superhero Hub. I'm Sam.
I'm Matt.
And today is another episode of Up for Review. This is fresh, this is fanciful, damn it, fanciful. This is a brand new hot series. Tell them what we're going to be reviewing today.
Legion, episode 1.
The season premiere of Legion. Now, so this is based on the X-Men character Legion, who is the son of Professor Charles Xavier.
Spoilers? Maybe.
Right, so this character, for all you who don't know, is what would be classed as an Omega level mutant. So super powerful, and his kind of thing is that he's got split personalities, and every one of the kind of split personalities that kind of is in control of his body has a different ability, ranging from pretty much anything really. His Omega level, so I mean telekinesis, matter manipulation, kind of that sort of stuff. I mean,
without to simplify it a little, yes, he has more powers and he can do lots of cool stuff because of it, but at its core, what it basically is what if Professor Xavier lost control and was insane in his son? It's like a nutso Professor X, basically.
Yeah, but with obviously more powers than the kind of psychic thing. What is see, this is kind of like a double-edged sword, because it's kind of, they could literally give him whatever abilities they kind of want depending on the kind of personalities they bring out. So it's like they could, like, any kind of issue or whatever, or trepidation he comes across in certain episodes, they could just be like, all of a sudden he can like freeze stuff, or all of a sudden he can walk through walls and stuff like that. So,
yes, true, but ultimately then he's still always going to be hindered by his own insanity. That's always his problem. So there is always there's a built-in stumbling block with him throughout the entire thing. So it's not like the show, I don't think we'll ever get to the point where he's literally solving any problem, although, you know, this is massive conjecture, but I suppose where they could go is he's omnipotent, and where do you go with that?
Well, so getting into the episode.
Yes, where do we start?
Well, in terms of art, I thought it was kind of artsy, you know what I mean? The different kind of...
Hey, it's a real mind trip, isn't it?
Transition, but yeah, I mean, watching it, it's kind of confusing, and it's kind of... like, I mean, if you watched it and you're confused, don't be like, you know, it's a bit too cerebral for me, I didn't really enjoy it, I'm not going to watch like the next one or whatever. I'd say stick with it, because it's like, it's confusing, but I mean, even if you watched the whole episode and it kind of feels like it's resolved at the end, so you kind of think you've got a grasp, honestly, I'd say that it's still probably gonna, like, they're still gonna throw curveballs and stuff like that. But I mean, for the episode, it was engaging, I guess. But there were some bits where maybe it was dragged out, but it's kind of, for a first episode, I think they kind of had to it's weird, because generally they kind of explain everything in the first episode, and you think, oh yeah, the first episode, they're getting all the introductions out the way and stuff like that. It was interesting because it was so confusing. I mean, even if you pegged it down as that, it's like, how much do we actually really know?
Right, I mean, it's not an origin story. We don't know. Yes, we have the flash with the montage thing at the beginning.
That was kind of good.
Yeah, and we saw vaguely what he's done, but we still don't know. I mean, he will be in the show. There's no way they're not going to. He will be Professor Xavier's kid, but there's no touching on that in the episode. There's no reference to the X-Men whatsoever. There's no real explanation of his childhood in depth. We don't know.
Well, they did. I'll just interject there. They did drop mutant, so I mean,
right, but
they have classed him.
Right, he's a mutant, absolutely, but there's no X-Men. What I'm saying, you don't see Wolverine popping about. You know, I mean, there's none of that.
No, that would be dumb anyway. That would be way too.
Of course it would, but it's the X-Men universe. So that what my point is, we don't really know anything about his life. We just know a couple of things that happened. We know what happened when he was in college, and now he's in an insane asylum or a mental hospital. So, what do you think they'll ever bring Professor X in? Let's just get that out of the way now.
I wouldn't. I mean, probably, and I think like because that's interesting. Now you kind of went over that. I don't see why. What's his name? Patrick Stewart wouldn't like pop on the show.
But wouldn't it be? See, when is the show set though?
Honestly, couldn't tell you. Like modern day, I guess.
See, is it?
I'd think so, yeah. It kind of fits into kind of the vibe you get about with like the government facilities and stuff like that. You kind of, I get the kind of X-Men 2 kind of like vibe, stuff like that. So I mean, I'm sure like Patrick Stewart, whether they do like, even if they did like a voiceover, because you got to remember like Patrick Stewart, he kind of does voices for American Dad and Family Guy and stuff like that. That's on the Fox channel, and I mean, the X-Men films are all Fox channel, so I mean they could drop things like, as you said earlier, like would you expect like other X-Men to pop up? I think that would be pointless, but I think they could they could whack Professor X either as a voice or something like that, or even pop up, but draw the line at that. I don't think there's a need for any other characters. I mean, they can reference stuff like, if you're going down that line, you could reference like Phoenix or Jean Grey or something like that, but I don't think any of them should pop up.
No, I think they should give it a wide berth entirely. You know, if you're going to bring one, I don't think they'll actually ever bring him on the show, but I think Xavier is where you should probably leave it.
Yeah, definitely, because anyone else, it'd be kind of pointless. But fair enough, kind of make references, but I mean, what would be the point in like Wolverine or Cyclops or something like popping up or whatever? I mean, if you're gonna do that, when you have him walking down the street, you'd expect like, I don't know, like a battle in the background or something.
If you're gonna have Wolverine and Cyclops on TV, you would not be doing a Legion show. That's what you'd be doing.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's deal with what actually happened in the episode, and you can kick us off because it's still kind of permeating in my head and I don't quite understand it all.
Well, you have him in a mental facility, but I would say that's probably like, see, it's interesting because he meets a girl there, he meets a blonde girl there, and is kind of into her, but he can't touch her, and it turns out she's got abilities. Don't really know what her abilities are, so it's kind of just doing the day-to-day slog, like getting up, having pills, recreation time, going to sleep, having these night terrors, and obviously when he has these things blow up, you know, he's out of control, he can't control his abilities. It's kind of, I'd say the character David, like that base personality, has kind of like telekinesis and stuff, and when he loses control, he like vroom, things like blow up and stuff like that. And I think he kind of is frustrated within himself, so when this happens, something blows up, then it's like boom, the kind of medical officers are on him, drugged up again, and then basically back into population doing his thing. Then this girl comes in, meets this pretty blonde girl, hangs around with her, kind of develops a relationship with her, and then she leaves, and then obviously she's always like, don't touch me, don't touch my skin or anything like that, so she's just about to leave, he kisses her, and then something happens, whether there's like a transference, like he goes into her and she goes into him, because it wasn't really, that's the kind of confusing thing.
That confuses me as well. Was she ever really there? Because I know there's a blonde girl at the end, and she seems to know him.
Yeah,
is that his delusion? I don't know.
Because you have that happen, and then he transfers into her, so then she's leaving, so technically he leaves the thing, and then he's kind of goes to his sister's house, and then he's trying to find the blonde girl, and then he starts getting followed by these people. He's kind of being interrogated. There's like a switch between him in the mental facility. He's being interrogated, and there's like a guy, an old guy who kind of says about the mutants, says that he's a mutant and he's got powers, and I think those guys are trying to find out what the kind of limit of his powers are, so they're kind of testing him, but it's kind of put on like, oh, he's in therapy, but really they're like kind of government people. And then they're kind of, when he's trying to find the girl, there's no record of her existing at the mental facility, so then he's walking, and then it kind of, she's with him and she's like, I'm not real here, I've been implanted, and then it turns out he's not in a, or maybe he's in a mental facility, but he gets taken to a government facility where they're testing him and like trying to get into his head, and I think she's like maybe telepathically or something reaching out and like busts him out.
Right, so did he transfer with the girl, or did he just take on her personality?
I think it's like a psychic kind of thing. I think maybe he did transfer into her, but even so, if he transferred with her, what happened with her and him, and how did they kind of cross? Because you had her sitting at the table with her bag, and then it switched, and then he was there. So it's like, I think the blonde girl was like a projection into his head, like kind of like, do you know like the Matrix? Do you know like follow the white rabbit? You know what I mean?
Vaguely, yeah.
I think it's kind of like that. You know what I mean? Like you're in like, you kind of within yourself. You kind of in.
Shut my head, bro.
You kind of in like I'm trying to think of the word. Like not a test. It's kind of like you're in, like they always. Do you know they go into that room in the X-Men and they fight the Sentinels? It's like what's that?
Room, yeah.
Yeah, it's like what's that thing called?
A hologram.
Nah, I'm not thinking
Projection.
of. No, I'm not thinking of that either. Jesus Christ, this is a toughie of an episode to decode. But basically, he's, imagine like, can't explain it.
Okay, let's move on.
It's a very tricky episode. So basically, he's in a dream and she's implanted in the dream to like guide him and help him, like, look, you're in this dream, I'm trying to get you out, so pay attention to what I'm doing and I'm going to help you get out the dream.
Right, it's kind of like Inception.
Yeah, basically. And it's like, the question is, was he ever in a mental facility, or was he literally in the government facility all along, and that was just like put in his head as like a safeguard? And then
it's a good question, because there's that girl Aubrey Plaza, I think, plays her, who's dead in the wall, right?
Yeah.
Who's now haunting him.
Yeah, because the problem is, because he said as the girlie did it, so that was kind of the thing, like, is the girl one of his personalities?
I think so.
Yeah, but then if you have that, it's like, are all the people he's kind of, do you know, he kind of gets out the facility, there's other people following him, and like when he gets out of the facility, or the bad guys are knocked out and that, and they're doing a great escape from this government facility, you've got another girl, a kind of Mexican looking girl, you've got a guy, and then you've got the blonde girl.
The blonde.
And it's like, are all they different personalities of him?
I don't know. See, I think maybe, this is a little complete guesswork, obviously none of us know, but I think maybe he'd met her at one point. Maybe they were involved, maybe they weren't. But having met her and maybe wanted not to lose her, he's created his own, kind of like a Norman Bates with his mum sort of thing.
Yeah.
He's created his own version of her in his head.
So basically, this episode's really, really trippy.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't really know what's happening. I think until they sit down and be like, look, you were never in, what I want to hear in the next episode is, you were never in a mental facility, you were literally taken to a government facility, and then you've been kind of tested on and kind of had these things put into your head, right, like suggestion that you've kind of, or there's like another mutant projecting into his head or something like that. Because
the problem, not the problem, I think it's a cool thing to do with the show, but the thing is, with him being so powerful, again, like I said, almost omnipotent, you've got to question almost anything that's ever said on the show. anything could be part of his delusion. It's to the point that maybe the only person I would actually believe is Professor Xavier. He's the only dude I know.
Do you know that?
Say, okay, this is what's happening to you.
The more I think about it, do you know that weird guy with the fuzzy hair that they kind of kept scoping to, and he had like the weird eyes?
Yeah, it was kind of like he kind of reminded me of like Jason from X-Men 2. You know, Stryker's son.
See, that's what I mean. That's where I'm thinking. That guy keeps popping up. Is literally like always around. Is he the one like projecting into his head like, oh, what are you? See, that's one theory, I guess, that maybe because it was the weird eyes, and they kept flicking to him, and they kept having him with the weird eyes, and it's just like, is something like interesting going on? Because I mean, they'll probably explain that in the next episode, because I mean, they've dropped threads, but literally the rest of the season is literally going to be like what's real and what's not real.
I think the entire thing's going to be a mind trip, to be honest. They had that little demon looking thing that we kept on seeing as well. Even at the end of the episode you saw him.
I think that's maybe. See, you'd think if those people were like aspects of his personality, whether they would have like mentioned it or anything like that. The demon with the devil with the yellow eyes. Now, I figure that's like, you've got to look at that like kind of like the Phoenix Force and Jean Grey. Maybe that's like the real, like, you've got all these personalities. Maybe that's like the real like dark personality that literally, if he lets him take over, it's like, you know,
that's kind of like the Valeyard thing with Doctor Who was saying. There's like the evil lurking inside him. I thought
the way you kind of look at it. Do you know when they're in the facility and you had like Aubrey Plaza and everything like was like messed up and you had her hanging out the wall? You'd imagine that maybe the chubby guy with the massive chin and the yellow eyes, maybe that personality took hold and did that.
Possibly, because with the idea that there might all be figments of his personality at the end, I do think the way the power was kind of cool, but the way the powers were being used, kind of, you know, like one dude who was just blowing dudes off like mountains and whatnot.
Sick.
It was, but it also looks like something this dude could have been making up in his head. It looked awesome, but it didn't look real, if you know what I mean. It looked like something that maybe this is part of his personality as well.
Yeah.
Maybe these are real people. Maybe that dude is someone he's met or created in his head that had that power.
Yeah, but it's like to kind of what end? Alright, it's got out of this facility. Now what happens?
I don't know what happened in this episode. I can't tell you what's going to happen.
It is super confusing, kind of compelling. It's the kind of thing where you'd want to watch the next episodes. Some people would be put off, I guess, but like for other people, they'll be like, look, this is super compelling, I have to find out what's happening. And it's going to be the kind of thing where you might get dropped like a couple like scraps every so often, but really is not going to, you're going to think one thing and then it's going to turn out to be another thing.
Right, in my opinion, if you've gotten to the end of this episode and you're confused, then don't drop it, stick with it. If you're bored, then drop it.
Yeah.
And that, you know, I must admit, I think there were points in the episode where I did get a bit bored. I think with the hour and 7 minutes or so run time, it did drag a little, especially with the dude who was interviewing him. That dragged on a bit for me.
It was jokes when he got like the pen in the cheek.
Yeah, that was fine.
The effects are really good when he like proper like loses it, and like when he's in the kitchen and you got like all the things flying around, he gets nicked by the knife, and then all that kind of it looked really good. You know what I mean? Right,
and the bit in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Where he, and this is part of the thing, he killed them. No, it's not the blonde girl. It's not any of those people with the powers. It's him. He killed all of them. So I do think they are fake. At least some of them. Or maybe they're not.
Maybe they know he's got this kind of psychic thing, and they can one of them can kind of tap in and like, yo, do this, but you don't know you're doing it.
Maybe the blonde one knows about his powers and is manipulating him by pretending to love him. maybe these people are like deep on them, not the Brotherhood, but maybe they're like the evil X-Men who are trying to overthrow humanity, and they know he's so powerful, that's why they're breaking him out.
Yeah. I liked him. I liked the actor. I liked the character. I kind of, because I kind of felt bad for him going through like the first bits of it, you know what I mean? I could see his struggle, and then you had the blonde girl turn up, and I was kind of like, oh, that's nice, and that. I was into her, I was into their like relationship. So I mean, off the bat, I liked Aubrey Plaza. I think she was okay for the bit. She's kind of freaky where she was sitting on the chair, like proper like freaky, you know what I mean? That was kind of just, I like all the characters.
I do, yeah. I mean,
right off the bat, you know what I mean, which is kind of good, I guess, that I'm kind of in that thing, because if I'm sitting there and I'm like umming and ahhing about characters, it's not kind of work. But I mean, I'm into all of them, so
I don't hate the characters. It's just there's a bit of a block there for me, because I just don't, like I say, I don't, maybe, and that's not really a bad thing. I don't trust any of them. Yeah. I don't know who's there and who isn't. How much of this it feels like the entire show is like Dexter, when he's talking to Harry, this apparition of his dad. Is like, is this everyone? Is like every person in his head?
I mean, that's a good thing though, because some shows are like spoon fed to you, and you kind of, this is like quite different to most kind of other shows. I mean, if you were to compare it with something, what would you compare it with?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's like one of these mind trip art house things, like you were saying earlier. I can't really compare it to any other show. I'm sure there's something out there, but nothing I've seen.
Which is good. I mean, I hope they kind of. I don't. As I said, I mean, it'd be good for where they are now to drop like crumbs and stuff like that, but not like give away the whole thing. But I think ultimately, no matter what we're thinking now, like if we were to make predictions about what's going to happen, it's like we're not even going to be close, you know what I mean? Because I don't really know where they're going with it.
It's definitely the most unique. I know some people are questioning, do we need another comic book TV show on the air with the CW doing all their stuff? It's definitely entirely different.
Yeah, it's actually good. It's getting 9 ratings, not 7 ratings.
It's entirely different from them. It's entirely different from even the Netflix stuff, which are quite dark and more serious as well. But it's a trip.
Yeah, I think it portrays mental health really well, and I think that's kind of the tone of the episode. It's like you're kind of confused. You don't really know what's going on. I think it puts you in as close as you could, I guess, to like the mind of like kind of someone with those kind of issues.
Yeah.
So it's very confusing. You don't know what's real, what's not. So I mean, in terms of the kind of mental issue tone, it's like
it does. And again, from the point of the mental hospital, you don't really, is that real or not? So you can't really question that. But in terms of how they deal with him, yeah, and the people around him, at least the people we think are real around him, the sister and whatnot, and her kind of frightened reaction to him. Where they go, like you said, I have no idea. I'm not even going to bother guessing.
Exactly, but I mean, I liked it. The effects were good. The kind of music, kind of tone. I liked the tone. I liked what it was trying to represent. I liked the kind of keep guessing thing, because as I said, so many like shows, you'll have a show and you'll know exactly where it's going. This is very unpredictable. I mean, the only thing I'd predict that no matter what I'm kind of thinking about where it's going to go is not going that way. So that's all I know. Like him being able to talk to like Aubrey Plaza, the dead girl, is that like what personality, like what's his base ability on his normal personality? Like what is David's like? Because you'd think it was telekinesis, but then you kind of see him sitting on the bed talking to Aubrey Plaza, and like all these voices in his head that he's been experiencing all through his life. Are they like him talking to the different personalities? Is Aubrey Plaza a personality?
Yeah.
So what's kind of that ability then?
I don't know.
Because the fact that I think less Are there any other points you'd like to cover?
I'm sure there is, but I can't think of them.
Yeah.
My head hurts too much.
So, let's talk numbers.
Okay, I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
I'll give it a 9 too.
Okay.
Because I like the kind of uniqueness. I like the tone. I like the kind of confusing. Where's it going? What's happening? Like sitting there, like, you know what I mean, all the way to the end. It was compelling viewing. I can see how some people like it'd get so confused it'd be like, not for me. But I mean, for me, I'm gonna keep watching it to see where it goes, because I think there's probably gonna be like a good payoff. I liked all the characters. I mean, straight off the bat, I mean, if you can introduce characters that you kind of like, all of them straight in the kind of first episode, I mean, you're onto something, aren't you? So now it's just like watching it, it'll be like, what's happening next? What are these people about? Where's it going? Stuff like that. So I mean, it's compelling viewing, I guess. Some bits I'll probably agree with you were dragged out, but I think they were just literally kind of just trying to get you there, if you know what I mean. Like, get all that stuff out of the way so they don't have to like dwell on it that much for like later episodes, you know what I mean?
But it was a slow burn. It was a strong start. I just, like I said, I thought it dragged a little bit, but with an hour long show, I suppose that's bound to happen. But I'm still in for next week.
Okay, so let's hear your opinions, whether you liked it, whether you didn't like it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I'm Sam.
I'm Matt.
And this has been the Superhero Hub up for review.